let's start out, and Laura, if you get a chance, let me know how you found your way here. Alana, how do we find contact info for directors, producers, showrunners, CDs if the physical addresses of their production company and office, etc. on IMDb Pro end up in returned snail mail? Alana, I will share this with you. If that's actually the case, if you have found somebody through normal channels and you actually have a physical address on them, obviously with regards to casting directors, everyone, and remember, these guys came to me at the Actors Network 15 years ago. Hey, Ziana, 15 years ago, before they actually created their business. So obviously casting directors, most of the time it would be casting about. However, you have two angles to that, Alana. If you think a production company or a person is actually in production, then you would have two options to that. One would be to call the actual studio that is the distribution or deficit financing entity to the film, and or call the network main number and simply, ask for the building number that the person's production office is in. So that's one way to go around the whole physical address issue. The other thing would be to use IMDb Pro specifically at a production company, let's just say, and don't always necessarily go with the one person that you're trying to find. Look at also some of the other names that you may see in any form of a listing related to a production company, doesn't matter whose it is, and do research on the other names. And perhaps, if nothing more, you would be able to possibly find a physical address on one of the people associated with the company and still send it to the other person, or send two things, one to that person and one in care of that person to the original person. So, hey Z, so that would be what I would do. Casting's a little bit separate. And again, I also always say this, Alana, there's nothing wrong with, depending on your relationship with your representative, there's nothing wrong with asking them, hey, in the most recent breakdown from so-and-so casting office, do you have a physical address? So there you go. So casting, you got that, and you have casting about. Everybody else, look to see if they're in production, find anywhere, because if they're in production, then it's in the news somewhere. It'll wind up in Deadline.com, it'll wind up in Variety or the Hollywood Reporter, and see if there's a studio entity and or, as far as the TV show goes, a network associated with it. Call the main line to those places and just ask, hey, I've got to get some correspondence to so-and-so. What is the building number there where their production office is? Because all you need is the building and suite number. The main number to Paramount hasn't changed since they built Paramount. 5555 Melrose Avenue, LA 90038. So all you need is the suite and building number. So that's that. Hold tight. Let me get back up here to Dawn's. Besides asking me for lunch, what I have for lunch. Serious question. Have you ever given your representation notice that you're thinking about moving on before you do it if they're not happy with your, if you are not happy with their view on how, okay, you guys just have a difference of opinion. Okay, on your subject you're asking, Dawn, is just on a difference of opinion about how you market yourself. Okay, that's cool, but the answer to your question is no. I don't give them notice that I'm going to. I'm very against, it's one of the big problems in Hollywood and also sometimes in life, I'm very against talking about maybe if doing something. I'm not a big advocate of that. However, what I am an advocate of, and which I actually just went through in my life, literally in my career, is you have your conversations with your representatives, whether it's about not enough activity or what's going on or what's the issue. Always have what I would just simply call a relationship business conversation. Absolutely. And at the end of the day, if you guys butt heads a little bit, like in this situation you're asking, which is specifically about how you are being marketed, and you have a couple of conversations and you make your point and you think you've done it well, and they make their point and you don't agree, then the bottom line is, over the course of time, it's no different than breaking up. And I'm not going to sing breaking up is hard to do, even though part of me wants to. But eventually you just leave. I just did it. I just left my representative after 16 years. These things are not easy to do, but I'm now officially on representative number 48 in my career, because sometimes you have to go. But I would not give them notice that you're pondering moving. Just keep that out of your mouth. Have a conversation about the problem, give yourself a time frame, and if it doesn't change, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get up out of here. So there we go on that. Christina, what side jobs are the best to try between acting gigs besides waitress, Instacart, Uber? I'm going to be really honest with you, CC. There are a boatload in the world we live in today, and ironically, I know this is going to sound goofy, and I'm not talking about some of the convoluted, crazy ones, because people always try to make it sound like making $3,000 a day is a walk in the park. I could make an OnlyFans joke here, but I'm not going to. But I will tell you this: you don't have to you don't have to post on TikTok, but if you had a TikTok account, I will tell you that if you put anything in terms of business or job in your description, the algorithm will feed you people, and there are a ton, I mean a shit ton, of ways to either just as a worker bee and or with a little bit of entrepreneurial spirit. There are a ton of ways to do what we would call part-time money, just simply being at home in front of the internet. So, and I'm not talking about cheesy stuff, and I'm not talking about questionable stuff. I am talking about there are things you can write. There are ways you can be a shopper. I'm talking about an expertise survey shopper. There are a lot of ways to make $100, $200 a day via the internet. And I actually have managed to discover in the last couple of years that there's a litany of information that people put out on TikTok, but also still use Google. But there are a lot of ways to do it, with all respect. Absolutely. And I will say this: you didn't ask this, but I'm going to say it anyway, since we have a few people here that don't know me exceptionally well. I want to say this. Hey, what's up, Mayor Mo? I want to say this to you, Christina. I'm a big advocate of this, and this wasn't always the case. Since you said waitress, Instacart, Uber, it used to be the old joke, as we know, what restaurant do you work at? Ha. I'm not a big advocate of discussing what it is you do to pay the bills. I don't care what it is you do to pay the bills. It makes no difference to me whatsoever. But I'm talking about it in terms of actual conversation. I'm simply someone who, to the community at large, producers, writers, directors, executives, development executives, sometimes when someone calls me, it cuts the sound out for just a moment. And I just got one of those calls, which it's not supposed to happen, but someone please tell me my sound is back so I know it's back. Thank you very much, Alana. Okay, sound is back. Okay, very cool. So let me finish that statement real quick. I don't believe in the world we live in today that maybe a close friend who might be a manager or an agent, somebody you've been with for a long time, for example, I just left my representative of 16 years. That is a guy at a company where I would have been comfortable telling him something I did as a side job. But as a general statement, Christina, I personally strongly believe how you keep your bills paid is nobody else's business. When it comes to agents and managers, they just want to know if you're on the right track, if you're keeping your materials up to date, are you available for an audition? And if it's anybody who's auditioning you, did you show up and do a good job? And if it's a set that you're on, are you doing your job? I genuinely and respectfully, unless you're close friends with someone, I am not a big advocate of discussing what you do to make money, just as a sidebar to your question. Doesn't make me right, it's just a policy and philosophy that I have. And Don was a mystery shopper for a while. There we go. Okay. Sound is good. Gotcha. Okay. Okay, guys, I've covered all. Come on, bring me some more. Laura, please feel free to ask any conundrum or question that you have. I'm more than happy to answer it for sure. Anything. It makes no difference, because I'll give you guys about, I don't want to bore anybody. I don't want to take any longer than we want to take today on a Friday. It's 2:43. I'm more than happy to cut the live short, no probs. But if you guys have something that you want to ask, by all means, please do so. I will happily make up. Oh, and by the way, everybody understand that I very much practice what I preach, 100%. As I just said, I've already just recently left a representative and moved on after a long time, very hard to do, of which I always believe you make a phone call and then you also confirm that in writing. Also, another thing is I am very specific about the efforts I make towards what I call the others, the other side, because I always put agents, casting directors, and managers on one side of the fence in this business as a pursuit, and I put producers, directors, writers, and executives on the other side. And I am personally, as we speak, on a campaign towards somebody who is way up in the business that knows me and has hired me on 2 different TV shows, or at least I've done 2 of their TV shows. And I am actively going after them on a regular basis, way ahead of time, to have a prominent role on the next season of their show. So please know, this is something that I myself do still to this day. There was a documentary on Jerry Seinfeld that even after the TV show Seinfeld, after all of his success, he still went back to the grind. He still went back to how hard do I need to work, etc. So there you go. What does original casting by mean on IMDb Pro if they're still credited for the latest episodes? That's a wonderful question, Alana. Yet another reason why I adore you. That's a really unique and not commonly asked question. And here's the answer that's going to be. I'm not going to tell you that it's always the case that somebody who cast, and by the way, this is the original cast. I could use any long-running show as an example. CSI is a good example of CSI. Then there was Vegas. Vegas was the original. Then there was New York, and there was Miami, which I did 2 of the 3 of them. So Law and Order SUV, SVU, whatever, Special Victims Unit. Typically, the producers in studio will always let the credits roll or give credit to, what's up, Bo? Good to see you, my kid Rock in Tejas, in Texas. Typically, Alana, the studios will give credit to the original casting, and they may even include them on recent episodes, but I'm going to say this, and I can't tell you if it's a fact or not. I can tell you what the reasoning behind it would be. The reasoning behind you seeing on IMDb Pro that an original casting person who isn't doing the casting today, and the fact that they would be credited for current episodes they may not be casting, hold for this, would be something that they negotiated in their deal. And I'll give you an example of a couple of people like old school folks like Junie Lowry Johnson, April Webster, John Levy, people like this who've been doing this for a long time and have a long life. Let's just say John Levy's done most of John Wells' shows for many, many, many years. The reality would be that is something she might have enough strength as a casting director to have them actually agree to do that for her in perpetuity of the life of the show. That's one answer, Alana. It's not a guarantee, but it's likely a plausibility for why you would see somebody who is original casting, not current casting, still be credited with current episodes. There you go. Here we go. Dawn. Okay. Are there any new avenues to find production lists since we are coming out of COVID? Basically asking if there are any new avenues that you've heard of to find out production list of shows going into production. Well, they certainly a long time ago removed the old school production charts that obviously we used to talk about, Dawn, at the Actors Network, and back when there was a Hollywood Creative Directory book, which is now basically IMDb Pro. They don't list the production charts the way that they used to. But there are a couple of entities. If you put current television, be specific in Google, current television production listings, current television in development listings, current studio feature films. This is why I've been using this language for years. I've been trying to be specific for years to actors about stop just saying film and television. There's 15 different ways to make a living in television. There are, I think now nine different feature film, quote unquote, or feature or film contracts just within the union. So be as specific as you can. There's a couple of entities out there. I don't know if they're pay portals, Dawn, but there are a couple of documents out there that may be. But at the same time, I in general would share with you that again, this is why reviewing Hollywood Reporter, reviewing Variety, and reviewing Deadline is one of the more consistent ways to be able to find out what's going on months in advance. And if you stay, and again, once again, I said it earlier, I'm going to bring one question into another. To Alana's point, let's just pretend. I'm going to give you an example, Dawn. Let's say that you're skimming through Deadline and you see a thing that says, I'm trying to pick a director and I just lost one. Let's just say James Cameron has gotten the rights to and is going to adapt blah, the next, Titanic, whatever the snot it was, some book we all know about, who knows. And it's set to shoot summer of 2023, right? So a freaking year from now. This is what we don't do enough. Jot it down, wait about 5 or 6 months, and then call up James Cameron's production company and or the studio that has made the distribution deal, because someone of that level would already have engagement with the studio to deficit finance this film, and just ask them, hey, who's your casting director? Don't ask them, do you have a casting director yet? No, do not ever ask that. Just act like you already know they would, because if they don't, well, first of all, you would just ask, put me through to the production company. And then you would ask the production company, yes, representative, you can always say representatives got to get some correspondence to the office without saying mine or I. That's another wrinkle. But just ask for the casting person and ask who it is. And then you would know way in advance who's casting it. So that's a couple of ways to go about utilizing what's made visible to us, what I would just call industry news, and be able to keep a small little tickler file on when you wanted to check back in to see if they've gotten somebody in casting yet. That's one of the ways to go about that. Yes, CSI New York, CSI Miami, and reboot of CSI Las Vegas, which is going to be hard for me to do since I died in CSI Las Vegas. Except for the fact at least I was a talking dead person, so that's always fun. Okay, so that covers, I think we're caught up, we're up to date. Welcome in, GFR Griffrey Dirk. Drick, sorry, I'm not getting this right at all. But do me a favor, if you would, type into the comments how you found us, who referred you. I always like to know. And if you can share with me your name, I'm happy to say hi, but I don't want to mess up what all those letters are. GFRIDRIK. It's probably a really cool name. But by all means, share with me. Okay, so guys, we have on or about 8 or 10 minutes left in this half-hour coaching session. So please, any question you have, anything related to class, teachers, photographers, demo reels, any possible scenario you can come up with. You got 8 minutes, and if I don't get a question in the next minute or two, I'm going to go ahead and end the live. Once again, this will be up on the grid. Eventually, it will be on my YouTube channel, at the Kevin E. Make sure you follow me here. Make sure you subscribe over there. There will be some monster changes coming soon to all of what I'm doing in this space, bringing my long-time history back from founding the Actors Network and having that organization open for nearly 24 years, 23 and change to be specific. But I'm going to go a couple more minutes and wait and see if anybody else has a scenario. Thanks you for all the ones so far. They're terrific. And so if you don't have anything, I will cut us off here in about 2 minutes, just because I don't want to have dead air time, and I don't want y'all to just be sitting there. But happy weekend. Thanks, Dawn. Cheers. Yes, it is Friday. But if anybody has one last scenario, one last question, anything is just in the back of your head about, I'm not exactly sure how to do that. Not exactly sure how to language that question, how to go about doing that thing, how to track that down. I mean, guys, that is why I'm here, and we have lots more coming soon. So I will wait a minute and a half. I have 2:53 on my clock, and I will wait till 2:55, which is going to be about 1 minute in just a second. and then we will be Seacrest out. Yep, it's now 2:54. One more minute. If nobody has any questions, Bo, thanks for coming in. Geography, Drick, thank you for being here. Laura, thank you for being here. By all means, make sure you come back the next time. It's easy to know just by following me. You'll always know. Okay, here comes the last question, y'all. Here it is. Whee! From Miss Alana. Do CDs that I had self-tape auditions with, the ones that did result in callbacks, pins, or bookings, okay, I'll let it sit there, belong on a master contact list since you can never be 100% sure they watched the tape? Well, you kind of reversed this because you didn't clarify without. So I would share, yeah, did not. Yeah, I would, exactly. That's what confused me. Thanks. So I would agree with you, Alana, that for all the ones who got callbacks, pins, or bookings, yes, they're on your master contact list. I agree with you in the world we live in today with self-taping that they're calling in 10 to 50. They're allowing or requesting submissions from 10 to 50 times more actors than they normally would in a physical space of coming into the studio, commercially or theatrically, either one. And so therefore, yes, and they're not watching 90-some% of them. This is all a given. So I would share with you, yeah, I probably, in my definition of master contact, I probably would not add somebody to my master contact that I just laid down a self-tape for and didn't hear anything back unless I know for sure, speaking to my representative, that they spoke to the office and the office actually told them, yes, we watch it, he or she was very good, but it's not going to go any further. So that would be my answer to that. Okay. With that said, 2:56 now on a Friday. We are beautiful. We're going to end this IG Live. Actor Show Business Coaching, the Kevin E. Show Business Scenarios. Have a great weekend, everybody. I have to shoot between now and Monday, but I will be back next week. And next week, so just please tell everybody you know, next week I'm liable to do a couple of 3 of these, and I may even be doing like a group Zoom thingy. So stay tuned. And thank you all for being here. And it's time to go. Y'all be good. Whee! Bye.